Hi guys, welcome to Past Left Drafts. The main spoilers for Zendikar Rising are starting really soon, and I thought it would be interesting to have a look back at the mechanics that have been covered in previous Zendikar sets and look at how likely they are to return in the new Zendikar set, or in what way they could be used in a similar way. So looking back at the previous sets, we'll have a whole host of mechanics. There's definitely some common themes among these, and some have been used more than once in various ways, but I think some are definitely going to, well, some have definitely been confirmed to be coming back, and some are more likely than others to be coming back. So looking at storm scale, what's most likely to come back, what's not so likely to come back. I'll be going through most of these in some way, and not quite everything gets covered in depth, but we'll be talking about what we think is likely to come back and how it might be used, whether it's referencing the lore or how it could be done in a post-Eldrazi world, or we'll see. So first of all, kicking things off, we've got Kicker, and Kicker is a way to use usually extra mana to make your spell, your creature, your instant or sorcery or whatever, make your spell have more of an effect. We've already seen on the Jace Planeswalker how if you kick it, it gets a copy of itself, and it's just a way to really eke out extra value from your spells. It's an interesting mechanic where it says that you can either cast it for the reduced cost and get a one Siler card, or you can pay a little bit extra mana and get an improved effect. And it's really interesting, limited for early game, late game shenanigans, and whether it's going to work. We've also seen multi-kicker in the past. This came in Worldwake, and this is where you can pay that cost a number of times, and you don't have to just pay it once, and you get the effect for every time it's being kicked. So that's a variation that we've seen, and that also first came in one of the Zendikar sets, so it's important to see. We've seen it on a Planeswalker, which is the first time I've ever seen it on Planeswalker, so it'll be interesting to see what other ways they'll be using this kicker mechanic. We also have equipment theme, and we've definitely seen this equipment theme in the past. You have Stoneforge Mystic was a Zendikar block set, Zendikar block card rather, and in the new Nahiri we've seen that there's an equipment theme and also potentially a bit of a warrior theme. So it makes a core warrior creature token, and core is a tribe which is really linked with Zendikar as well as allies, which we'll come on to in just a moment. But the equipment theme is something that's really linked with the core. The core are known to be very good weaponsmiths and user of swords, especially. So it's definitely something that's going to be coming back. It's just a question of how much that's going to be a feature. Next, we're going to look at Landfall. Now, Landfall hasn't been confirmed, but we know that land is a huge part of Zendikar. The whole draw is that the land comes to life, it helps the people of Zendikar out, or it fights other people of Zendikar, or it fights against the threats against Zendikar itself. There's all this mana available, and that is represented in the land. It's Landapalooza, as Maro originally called it. So Landfall, when a land enters a battlefield, it has an effect. So you can see here in the plate of GOP that it gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. So it's a 1/1 first strike, but often it's going to be a 3/3 first strike. And this is a feature of a lot of these Landfall cards. Sometimes they'll let you maybe draw a card. I don't think that's an actual one that would be very powerful, but you can have all sorts of different abilities on these Landfall creatures. And there's even some instant sorceries which have extra ability if land has entered the battlefield that's this turn, then it has a slightly enhanced effect. So it's a really interesting mechanic, and something that we're really expecting to see. We've seen some spoilers, some leaks, which indicate that it's really going to come back in some way. And again, might just be 1 or 2 cards, it might be on a lot of cards, or it might really not be on anything so far. So something that we really expect to see, but not 100% confirmed, but we are 90-95% of the way there. Then we've got another thing which is linked to the lands of the world and the lands coming to life, and these are the Awaken mechanics. So this is where you have creatures lands becoming creatures. So in Battle for Zendikar, you could turn a land into a creature. You have the Zendikar cycle in Rise of Eldrazi, where you could enchant a land. It was almost like an aura. Well, it was an aura for a land, and you could turn that land into a creature that way. And we've also seen what's usually called the man land or the creature land cycle, where it's a set of 10 dual-colored lands that become a land with some kind of ability. So you pay mana, it becomes a land with some kind of ability, and they've been really popular in the past. So there's lots of ways to turn lands into creatures. Now, with this one, I'm not sure if we're necessarily going to see it, because the idea of these was that the land was coming to life to fight for Zendikar, to fight against usually the Eldrazi, and the Eldrazi's been conquered. So are we still going to see that the lands come to creatures, or are they going to be active in some other way? Are they going to have some kind of function, or I was just going to see them as creatures, and still that's part of Zendikar, and I'm going to see how that's working. I don't know. It might seem obvious that lands are going to awaken and become into creatures, but I don't think it's 100% certain because the Eldrazi have been defeated, and that hazard is gone, and there's no reason for them to become creatures anymore. So we'll have to wait and see, but it'll be really interesting to see what happens. Another one is allies. Allies have been a huge part of Zendikar. They have been in every single set in some way. It started with the likes of the Harder Freebird, you see here, where they tend to have an effect which happens when another ally enters the battlefield, and this kind of helps all the allies that are coming in. They all make each other stronger, a bit like slivers, but it's more centered on end of the battlefield abilities than just the static buff. You saw that turn into the rally mechanic in Battle for Zendikar, and this is effectively the same kind of thing. When an ally enters the battlefield, an effect happens. So it's just kind of formalized a little bit into an actual ability. And then we saw the cohort mechanic in Over the Gatewatch, which was very much a weaker mechanic. I don't think there was any really runaway, really good spells with cohort, but it is still to do with allies. I haven't seen any spoilers about allies yet, but they are still quite likely to happen. We've seen them all in the past. Although this time there's not really anything for people to ally for. So maybe, again, post Eldrazi, we're not going to see these allies. I think that would be a shame. I think it's a really big part of Zendikar, but I can see a world where they don't come back. So fingers crossed they are going to come back, because I think there's some really cool synergies. And I think, especially for like the commander players, there's things that haven't happened yet and things that they were quite like cards for. But I think it's also really interesting in the limited environment. So Rally, hope to see it come back, but I don't think this, again, like Awaken and Lands, I don't think it's 100% certain to come back, because lore-wise there might not be a reason for that. Next, going to look at the Eldrazi. Now, before I start, we know that there's no Eldrazi on the world. It's been said there's going to be no Eldrazi creatures. But that's not to say there's not going to be some kind of Eldrazi presence. This had a huge effect on Zendikar in the not too distant past. It's just starting to recover from the Eldrazi attacking it. And we know that the effects of that are still around. So we could see it as some colourless lands, which maybe can get better, and you can see this healing process. Or it could be some kind of colourless spell, like all is dust, where it is a colourless spell and it has an effect, and it's kind of Eldrazi-like, and there's some kind of Eldrazi presence. But we know there's not going to be any Eldrazi there. However, we don't know that the Eldrazi presence is totally gone in all ways. The Eldrazi were alluded to before we saw them, and they will be leaving an effect after they're gone. So they're gone, but maybe they're not totally gone. No Eldrazi, but effective Eldrazi. And I do expect to see that, whether it's, like I say, some kind of land which recovers, or some kind of spell which references the Eldrazi in its mechanics, or maybe some creature which isn't an Eldrazi but has been affected by the Eldrazi. I don't know, but we're definitely going to be very likely to be some kind of colourless mechanic in some way, or some kind of colourless presence within the set, which isn't just limited to artifacts like equipments and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I definitely want to see the Eldrazi referenced, if not overtly, there. We also have, going right through Zendikar, we've got this kind of improving mechanic, and it started off with the original Zendikar with a lot of things like the quest mechanics. So you had a Palani Heart Expedition and that whole cycle, where as lands came into the battlefield, they got better and better and granted a boon. Similarly, there was the Ascension cycle, where something else would happen, or creatures enter the battlefield, or gain life, or something like that, and they get these quest counters. And when you reach a certain number of quest counters, then there's a boon. So in this case, it's they get +5/+5. There was Pyromancer's Ascension, where it copied spells after it got to 2 counters, I think. So this idea that you play something for cheap, there's no effect, and all of a sudden you get this really big effect which can potentially win you the game. So this going on quest, this improving could be seen. There was also the vampire mechanic, where if, I think it was called Bloodied, or nicknamed Bloodied, where if the opponent was less than 10 or less life, then there's an improvement. So this is kind of does link in with the other things that's going on here. If you can fulfill a criteria, then there's this widespread among your team, among your cards, improvement to your cards, and they work better. Another way we saw this was in the level up mechanic, where you can pay mana to level up your creatures to make them stronger, to make them better. In this case, it was to fight the Eldrazi and to make them better fighters. We could see that on creatures gain. It could be on some kind of enchantment or even a land or something like this, but this level up mechanic, I think it's a little bit underutilized. We've seen it in one way in the past, but it could be improved. And finally, we've got in Oath of the Gatewatcher, there was a support mechanic. This was mainly because there was a two-headed giant kind of theme going through this, and we saw combatant battle bond. But again, it was where you're using cards to improve other cards and improve a number of different cards at the same time. And this improving thing is part of Zendikar. And with Zendikar being this rich abundance of mana, you can see why they've worked this into the lore. In the spoiler, in the background image I've used here, you can see it's got the sprouts, so it could be about a land improving, and maybe a land which starts off only being able to produce colourless mana, but then over time it can produce one colour and maybe two colour. I don't know. That could be one way that it improves. Or we could see this improvement among other ways. So growth and improvement, it's kind of goes in a lot of Magic cards where cards get better as time goes on, but I think it does seem to have really been taken hold of in Zendikar, where just stuff gets better. And now with Zendikar's healing, as it's coming over the wounds that the Eldrazi have wrought over it, we could see this improvement coming in again. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you see where I've come from with this, and let me know in the comments if you think there's anything I've missed, any mechanics which you can see coming back. This is currently Monday night in the UK time, so this is all the spoilers we've had. When we hit the main spoilers on Tuesday, we will be seeing quite a few more mechanics coming through, and we'll be seeing quite a lot coming soon. But I hope you've enjoyed it. Give us a like and subscribe as well. We're going to be producing a load of Zendikar stuff coming out. We'll be discussing the cards that we see, not full spoilers like some channels do, but we might have a discussion near the end of spoilers and see how it might affect limited. And we are also going to be producing some gameplay videos of drafts from Zendikar as soon as they come out. They should be out by the first weekend, so give us a subscribe so you're not going to miss any of that. And on your screens now, you should see a couple of links to videos that we've done. Some stuff on Awaken Remastered up at the top, and some stuff on M21 to the bottom, where it's one of our commentator drafts. Hope to see you again soon, and thanks for watching.